Hey, church, today is day 7. That means we're in Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 follows right on the heels of Acts chapter 6. Stephen, he's in prison, he's in jail, and now he's in the middle of a courtroom where they've brought in all these liars, all these false protesters, all these false witnesses to tell lies that he is blaspheming against God. And basically they look at him and they say, "What do you have to say for yourself?" And Acts chapter 7 is most of his answer. And what's the neatest thing about his answer is he just doesn't give a, well, they're lying, or they're against me, or yes, I'm for Jesus. He takes time to explain basically the whole Bible in just 50 verses. It's kind of an amazing chapter. And he starts out and he says, "You remember our patriarch, our fathers, the people who all the Jews would have looked up to? You remember Abraham when God gave him a blessing but said, you're not going to be able to have it. It's other people that will have it. What about Isaac, one of his grandchildren? What about his grandchildren, Jacob? And what about Joseph, who got sold into slavery and decided to work for Pharaoh and basically saved all of Egypt, later on bringing Jacob to die there? And then many years after that, what about a man named Moses, who was from Egypt? He was one of the slaves, but yet God ordained it so that he would be adopted by Pharaoh, and he would be well taught and educated, but yet end up following what God wanted him to do. And he ends up going out into the desert, and he marries and has kids, and he meets a burning bush. He sees God in this bush, and God tells him to go back and to free his people. And then later on, after he frees the people, and all these these millions of people have gone into the desert, and Moses is talking to God on the mountain. Aaron, his priest, his friend, his brother, leads people into worship of idols. And what about Joshua, the man that God said that was going to lead these Israelites now into the promised land? And through Joshua, they were going to be in lots of wars and take over countries and basically gain the promised land that God has promised them all the way back to Abraham. And many years after that, what about this man named Solomon, the richest and the wisest guy, the man who built the first temple that was stationary, that moved, and it was truly the house of God, and there was nothing like it anywhere else in the world? He says, what about all these people? All these people, nobody ever believed them. Nobody believed Abraham. Nobody believed Isaac. Nobody believed Jacob. Nobody believed Joseph. Nobody believed Moses. Nobody believed Joshua. Nobody believed Solomon. And what happened is that nobody believed them. The Israelites didn't believe them, and they end up all dying with their thoughts of what God was. And he takes it one step further, and he says, how many prophets have you killed? Talking to the Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin, 72 of the smartest and most religious people. And basically he was saying the argument of saying every person that has come to us in Jewish history saying they were of God and they were here from God and for God, we have never listened to and we've killed. Basically the same is going to happen here today. And he points to him and says, even you men killed John the Baptist, the prophet of the Messiah. You men even killed the Messiah, Jesus Christ, who came. And so I am no different. And it says at the end of the last couple verses, it says that these men, these Sanhedrin, this court, it says they were so mad that they ground their teeth. They showed their rage and their frustration to how mad they were. It's one of those things, they were so mad they could have just leaned over the counter and just wrung his neck themselves. But it goes on to says is that they were so angry they rushed at him. And what's really neat about this word rush is it's found only one more time in Scripture. And the only place that we can find it is in Mark chapter 5, when it's talking about the man who is demon possessed, and Jesus tells the demon to leave. And the demon says, well, where do you want us to go? And he cast him into the pigs, and the pigs rushed through the countryside and rushed over the mountain. This word rush just shows kind of this demon-possessed, this angry, this completely against God thought. And as they rush him, they race him out of town so that they can kill him, because one of the Jewish rules was you couldn't stone anybody within the city limits. It had to be outside. And so we get this picture of them all crowded around, and they're screaming and yelling and throwing rocks at him the whole way. And then we get a little glimpse into the rest of Acts, and it says, at the feet of Saul, they laid their coats. This man Saul, we're going to see in 2 more days. We know him as Paul, the man who wrote the New Testament. This was a Pharisee. This was a man who sat on the Sanhedrin, and he was a part of this stoning. He was a part of this killing of a Christian, but literally in days, we're going to see that Jesus has completely changed his life around. What does this have to do with us, church? Well, the premise of this and what Stephen was trying to say is from the very beginning of time, people didn't believe God's people. They've always been hostile toward him. They've never believed. But no matter what, God's plan has never lost. It's never went out of control of God's hand. And that's our belief. That's our takeaway from this church, that it is not our job to lead people to Jesus. It's our job to tell people about Jesus, and God will take control. We will never win everybody, but God is in control. Today's prayer focus is for Pastor Tim and his fiancée, Caitlin. And I hope that you pray over them as he works with our students and as he works with our worship, doing a fantastic job. But also pray for their engagement and for their upcoming marriage. And pray for their continued health and all that they would be godly man and woman, pastor and pastor's wife that would come and help lead our church. Guys, I'm so excited about this, and I hope you are. I will see you tomorrow on day 8. God bless.